You're calling getOrders endpoint on Amazon's PII. The order comes back, but the buyer name is null, the shipping address, the phone number, null. That is not a bug. Amazon is hiding it on purpose. Buyer information is what they call PII, personally identifiable information, and to get to it, you need a completely different kind of token, the restricted data token. In the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly what PII is in SPAPI land. Then I'll show you the actual solution provider portal, 2 real seller accounts, the role application screens, the questions Amazon asks, the difference between an open request and an approved one, and then we drop into Python and pull a real buyer name and a real shipping address. Let's pull up the screen and get going. Let's start with the obvious question. What is PII? PII stands for Personally Identifiable Information. In plain English, it is anything Amazon considers private about the buyer. Their name, their email, their phone number, their shipping address, and in some cases their tax information. Here is what trips most developers up. A normal SPAPI call gets you the order, the SKU, the quantity, the marketplace, the order ID. That stuff is yours. You can pull it all day with a regular access token. But the moment you need the buyer's name or the address that order ships to, you have crossed into restricted territory. And restricted territory plays by completely different rules. That is why getting access to PII feels like applying for a security clearance, because in a way, it kind of is. Now the actual mechanics, a restricted data token, RDT for short, is a short-lived access token that only works for restricted operations. It is not a replacement for your normal access token. It is a second token, used only when you cross into PII territory. The flow is simple. You start with your login with Amazon Access Token, the regular one. You make one extra API call to a special endpoint called Create Restricted Data Token. In that request, you tell Amazon 2 things: which operation you are about to call and which data elements you need. Amazon checks your roles and if you are approved, hands you back a brand new token that starts with the prefix atz.sprdt. That is your RDT. You use it, not your normal token, for the actual PII call. The RDT lasts exactly 1 hour. After that, you mint a new one. 2 tokens. Normal endpoints get the normal one. Restricted endpoints get the restricted one. That is the entire mental model. Before we touch any portal, I want you to see where Amazon actually documents this. This page right here is the single source of truth for which role unlocks which endpoint. Bookmark it. You will be back here a lot. First one I want to flag, professional services. This is the one most people skip past, but if your app sells services on Amazon, installation, assembly, repair, this is the role that unlocks buyer name and address for the service appointment. Notice the word restricted right next to the name. That tag is what tells you the role, Gates PII. This is the one I'm going to focus on for the rest of the video. Tax invoicing. If you operate in the EU, in Mexico, in any market where the seller has to issue a legal invoice, you legally have to put the buyer's name and address on the invoice. So Amazon's restricted role for that exact use case is tax invoicing. Right next to it is tax remittance. Same data, different filing context. Most sellers I work with end up applying for tax invoicing because invoicing happens per order, while remittance happens per period, and the third one, direct to consumer shipping. This is the role you apply for if you are physically shipping merchant fulfilled orders and you need the address to print a label. Same dataset, buyer name, address, but a different justification. Amazon wants to see that you actually run shipping logistics, not just that you'd like to have the data. What this page also tells you is which exact operations each role unlocks. Click into any of these and Amazon shows you the operation table. Okay, with the docs page in our heads, now let's go look at what this actually feels like inside the solution provider portal. What you're looking at is one of my clients' developer profiles. The top section is the standard company info, legal name, contact, region. But the part we care about lies a little further down, there. The roles and data elements section. Every restricted role you have ever applied for shows up in this list. And right next to that section, Amazon links you back out to the same operation mappings page we just looked at. That is intentional. They want you double checking. Every single time you submit, that the operations you are signing up for actually match the data you say you need. If you say you need the buyer's name to ship a package, but you only check operations that don't return shipping addresses, Amazon will reject that. They want logical consistency. Okay, let's go pick the actual data elements. This is where you actually pick the PII you want. Each box on this list is a separate data element. Buyer info, shipping address, contact information, buyer tax information. The temptation is to check everything. The smart move is to check exactly what your application uses. No more, no less, because every box you check is a box you have to justify in the next step. Amazon will read your justification, compare it to the operations you've selected, and if anything doesn't line up, you get pushed back to the start of the queue. For our tax invoicing case, we only need two: buyer info and shipping address. That is the minimum to print a legal invoice. Watch what happens the second I check direct to consumer shipping. The page expands, a whole new question form appears underneath. This is Amazon's way of saying, okay, prove it. For every restricted role you tick, the portal injects a context-specific questionnaire. They want to know how you ship, where you ship from, who handles your fulfillment, and what your data retention looks like. If you are watching this for your own seller account, the answers are usually simple. You ship yourself from your own warehouse and the data lives in your own system. But if you are a public app, this is where months of back and forth start. Okay, let me switch over to a second client account. This one is further along. See, tax invoicing, already checked, already submitted. This is what the same screen looks like once a role has been picked up by Amazon's review team. And here is the answer they wrote. Notice the tone, short, factual, specific. They named their invoicing software, they named the jurisdictions they file in. They said, we issue an invoice per shipped order. Done. Back on the home page, you can see at a glance every role that has been granted to this developer. Tax invoicing is approved. Right there. That's the green light I needed before any of the Python you are about to see can work. But, and this is critical, having the role approved on your developer profile is only half the job. You also have to attach that role to the specific application. Amazon treats the developer profile and the application as two different layers. The profile is, what data am I allowed to ask for at all? The application is, what data has this specific app been authorized to use? While we are here, I want to show you what an in-flight role request looks like. This is a direct-to-consumer shipping role I submitted recently for this same client. Status: under review. Amazon's reviewer came back with a clarifying question. They want more detail on a specific aspect of how this client handles fulfillment. Polite, professional, but explicit. This is the back and forth I was telling you about. And here is the revision question. We have not responded to it yet. But, and this is the key insight of this entire video, even though this direct-to-consumer shipping role is in limbo, the tax invoicing role we already had approved is completely independent. That means right now, today, even with this DTC shipping question hanging over us, this client's app can still pull buyer name and shipping address legally because it pulls them via the tax invoicing role, not the shipping one. Same data, two legitimate justifications. The one you have approved is the one you use. Let me prove it in code. Alright, VS Code. This is the whole script. 50 lines, fits on one screen. Top, imports and config. We're using the Python Amazon SP API library. 3 lines of config. German marketplace, 90-day look back, pull 3 orders max. Below that, one function, mint RDT. It calls the tokens API, hands it 2 restricted paths for this specific order, the address endpoint and the buyer info endpoint, and gets back a fresh restricted data token. One important thing here, no data elements field. For these per order endpoints, you leave it out completely. If you add it, Amazon gives you back a token with no scopes. It looks fine, then breaks on the next call. Leave it out. Main function, 3 steps. Step 1. Fetch orders. Regular client, no RDT, just get the list. Step 2. Loop through each order, call mint underscore RDT. Now we have a token scope to that order's PII endpoints. Step 3. Create a second orders client. Same credentials, but this time we pass the RDT in. Any call through this client uses the restricted token, not the normal one. Then we call get order address and get order buyer info and print the results. Let's run it. There. The buyer name, the address, the city, the postal code, the country, real PII pulled live through a tax invoicing role, through a restricted data token, exactly the way Amazon designed it. That is the full tax invoicing pipeline. Approved role, approved app, fresh refresh token, RDT minted with no data elements, and an orders client wired to use it. So that is the full tokens API picture. PII is gated for a reason, restricted roles are real, the application layer is its own separate gate, and the RDT is the one piece almost every SPAPI tutorial glosses over. I packaged the demo script with the INV file into a single download. Check out link in the description. If this saved you a few hours debugging session, smash the like button and subscribe. The rest of the SPAPI deep dive series drops every week. The next one tackles a different problem. See you in the next one.